Welcome. This is round 3 of the 2022 Lake Chabot New Year's Classic, driven by Innova. I'm Juliana Korver, and joining me in the garage today is Ella Hansen.
Hello, I'm excited to watch round 3 here. We're gonna be looking at the Bay course. So this is on half of the 18-hole ball golf course at the Lake Chabot place. Lake Chabot golf course, I'm assuming is called.
In beautiful Oakland, California. Starting the round today, we have Scoggins in the lead. She is 9 under. Ella not too far back with a 3 under, 6 behind Own. Then we have Camille, 3 over. Jenn, 5 over. And Amanda at 8 over.
And we are starting here on hole 2. It was a very cold and a little windier morning today than it was for the last round, which was on Saturday. This round was on Sunday. And this is a long par 3, 483 feet, throwing over this valley, back uphill. There's out of bounds on the right. And
you can really see how much dew there is on the grass from this angle.
Yeah. A lot of wet shoes this morning. And Own throwing a nice flex shot, skipping off the road, and that gives her a nice angle to the basket from there. And I was very layered up. It was pretty chilly this morning. I'm just trying to hit this gap.
Oh my goodness. That looks like a very long drive.
So this course was actually the first course we played on Saturday. So we're all getting our second look at it.
Looks like there's a pretty significant downhill component to the fairway, and then it slopes back up towards the basket.
Yeah, that's correct. And it makes that second shot tough, too, if you end up too far down the hill. And Camille, fortunate there, gets a little too far turned over, but she manages to stay safe. And that path is all safe.
There is an OB line if you go far enough into the woods on the right-hand side.
Jenn throwing a big high flex shot, also ending up sort of in that right area. A lot of folks on the first round ended up playing more left and bringing those trees into play. So I think getting it down to the right opens up the window for that second shot approach.
Yeah, it's very obvious that that is where the women are throwing. So intuitively, without being there in person, I would have guessed the opposite. So it's nice to hear that that's a good place to end up.
Yeah, if you have the distance to really get up to the trees, that's a better place to be. But if you're short, it can be really challenging to have both the trees and the elevation in play here on your upshot. Amanda sort of playing this skip. Again, this is a tough low ceiling angle here with the trees. It's not, it's only like a 5-6 foot gap there that you have to hit vertically to get.
Yeah, you're throwing uphill, but you have to stay under those limbs. So you have to really judge the distance correctly, because you can't throw it out and around and have the stability of the disc stop it.
Owen playing a little skip there. She'll have a edge of circle look for her par.
What a great drive. That really makes this hole significantly easier to be able to get up there.
Yeah, I was really happy with this, but this is a bit of a scary putt. Big drop off behind the basket here. So I'm giving this a gentle run.
You can see your breath too. It really actually gives me a little bit of a chill right now looking at the video.
It was freezing this morning. We were all kind of trying to navigate keeping our hands and our bodies warm throughout the morning, hoping it was gonna sort of warm up, but it took a while to warm up, so this first part of the round was very cold. Camille with a tough look there from sort of in that tree line. And Owen cashing it in dead center for her par. Losing a disc, but she's happy with that. Most of the, well, I would say pretty much everyone in the FPO field here and most of the tournament are probably playing this hole for par. Amanda had this sort of uphill look. She's sort of down on the path there.
Yeah, another naturally raised basket.
Mm-hmm. A lot of those on both of these courses. She manages to cash in for her par. Oh, just right side. I wonder, she's wearing a big winter jacket. I know that when I was putting, I felt sort of restricted. I had a big jacket that I was wearing between when I threw, but I made sure to take it off. Well, I'm wearing it here, but for a tap-in, I was trying to take it off just because it felt like it sort of got in my mind a little bit.
Good start.
So Owen, myself, and Amanda taking pars. Camille and Jenn will be taking bogeys. And I was really hoping, I was glad I got a look at it too on this one, but I was kind of hoping with 2 rounds I would have been able to sneak the birdie one time, but not quite. So hole 3 here, 268 feet. This is looking like a forehand or sort of a straight or flex shot for most of the field. You have these 2 guardian trees sort of off of the tee, and that road behind is out of bounds. You can't really see it from here, but it's about 20-30 feet from the basket, but sort of up the hill, so it's hard to get there.
A little bit low for Owen. There is also a fence line kind of behind the tee and to the right, which really should not come into play given the angle that you're throwing.
Yeah. I was very happy with this drive.
That's a beautiful shot.
There was a little bit of a tailwind on this, so I threw this very flippy origin, but making sure it had enough hyzer and just wanted to carry straight to the basket.
I really liked the control you had on the angle of that when it landed, because if you had turned that over too much, you could potentially cut roll and go down the hill. And if you didn't turn it enough, then you would fade down the hill.
Yeah.
So, very well done.
Yeah. Camille trying to go right of that tree, ends up a little short. And again, this is like a pretty big gap, but those little limbs and branches really get in your mind and sort of force you to throw it probably a little lower than you want.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if that forced a low ceiling shot, because the error that we just saw by at least 3 of the women was to throw too low on that drive.
Yeah, that definitely comes into your mind, and especially with the hill sort of fading left of the basket, fading downhill. You don't want to throw too high as well, because you can fade pretty far away. Some upshots here. Amanda skipping off the top.
Nice run by Amanda.
And she's fortunate there to skip to the left and not up, because she could have gone out of bounds there.
Owen casually putting with the bag on her shoulder. That was a little bit on the right side, but it caught a chain.
Yeah. I'm looking good here with my hat on top of my hood. It was that cold.
Look at the surroundings on this hole. Another really pretty shot.
Mm-hmm. And this is, both courses, are beautiful, but I would say this is the more picturesque of the two, and a lot of fun views. We were lucky that it was so clear both days to be able to take in the sights.
Another look at Amanda's aggressive and just a little bit too high shot here.
Catching just the little number plate. And here we have hole 4. This is a par 3, 249 feet. This, honestly, in my opinion, was probably the lowest ceiling hole on the course. Really uphill, and then this right here, you sort of have a berm hill that really is hard to get over.
Can you see the line? Can you at least see the line that you have to hit?
Yeah.
Or do you have to like throw an
an
air bounce to get under the ceiling and then up over that berm?
Kind of an air bounce. As you can see here, I just said no, and I'm throwing a big spike hyzer around the right side because I know I can get up there and have a long putt, and I did not want to worry about hitting a tree early and having to get a bogey. Getting to the bottom of that hill. That's kind of the collection area that...
Yeah, that looks like that's about as good as you can do going up the middle.
Really it is. And even from there, it's challenging too, because you can't really see the basket from under there. So this is kind of ends up being a placement hole, even though it is only 250 feet.
Oh, she got that up at a nice height, and she was able to climb much of the way up. I'm guessing she'll be able to see the basket from where she is.
She will. And that's honestly kind of the best you can do on this hole. Like, she pushed that ceiling, and she still only ended up about 2/3 of the way up that hill. Because the grass is so wet too and long, you can't really try to hit that hill and skip over it. Just kind of eats your disc. Mando with a nice blind approach there. Looks like Owen can see the top of the basket. Leaving it a little short, but she'll have an easy look.
Short for mere mortals, not
not
something that Owen's going to worry about.
Jenn, you can see the flags blowing here, so we're throwing a little bit into the wind, and I think she just put it a little too nose up and hyzered out.
Which, of course, the topography of the land is basically making her do.
Right. And Camille with a really solid long bid, almost ringing up the 2 there.
I really like your play going out and around the outside on this one.
Yeah, there is a sand trap over to the right that came into play, and I just catch the front of the cage there. But it does give you a much more open line to the basket, and it's a much easier approach shot. Unfortunately, Amanda just hitting the cage, getting those short putt nerves, I think.
I'm going to blame that one on the cold.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, and a little on the right side again, but
sneaking it in.
Still finding the bottom of the basket. Yeah, you can see the flag waving in the wind. Which, of course, adds to the chilliness of the morning.
Yes. Yep. We were happy to have the sun out, though, at least. When we were warming up, it was dark and cold, and at least here you could stand in the sun and get warm. We're all tapping in some pars. Mando with a bogey there. But nobody hit an early tree on that, so that's a win for that hole. It's a tough one for sure. And we're getting a look here at hole 5. This is a par 4, 485 feet. OB on the right and left here, and on this green, and hazard in that sand trap.
According to the caddy book, the right side is not OB, just the left side.
Okay, well, OB left side. And we had a bit of a backup here, so had a little bit of a warm-up dance break for the whole card.
I noticed that the hole slopes from right to left, so if you turn something over, you're potentially going to cut roll into the OB on the left.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm playing the roller here because that hill, I trust that it's going to catch me, and I'm pretty happy with how it worked out. Sort of end up on this side hill here, but just past the green. Don't have to worry about that OB on the left or the green or the bunker.
I like that a lot. I was wondering on some of the earlier holes where there was low ceilings if we were going to see some rollers, and then I was thinking that perhaps the wet grass made it not very conducive to throw rollers, but that was a very nice shot. It looks like it's going to fade a little bit at the end.
Just right on the edge of that bunker, it looks like.
I'm guessing that sand trap plays as a hazard.
Yes, it does.
Which means she will play from inside the sand trap and take a one-stroke penalty.
Jenn playing a nice turn over there, just not quite enough height, kind of eaten up by that hillside.
Oh, that's a good line by Amanda.
And yeah, she just hits right into that hillside, and Jenn here, so the basket is up past these trees. You got to get over this, and then you sort of want to fade or skip left, but not too far left. So we're actually looking at Camille's disc here because it is on the edge of the sand trap, and even though there's sand on the edge, we're calling her safe because the edge of the bunker is clearly on the edge between her disc.
I think that's a good call. That's a tricky one.
And then we have to sort of figure out how she's going to mark it because we're just all reminding ourselves of if you're safe but next to a hazard, can you put your stance in the hazard? And we believe that the answer is yes, you can put your stance in the hazard. So she has a bit of a tough angle here. Has to get it around those trees.
Looks like the trees by the basket are very protective of the basket.
Yeah. Most everyone is going to be going right. I guess there's a tiny gap there on the left, but not really playable, and just didn't quite get it wide enough there.
Is there an opening if you get behind that tree to fall in, or is it just kind of crash and burn and hopefully you'll find a way through the limbs?
There is an opening, but yeah, most players are going to be playing this one out wide here, trying to get it up and over toward this basket. And this is another scary one, though, because the out of bounds is about 10 or 15 feet from that basket on the left side. Own playing a nice wide backhand. Just doesn't quite get it up the hill enough, but she'll have a circle one look there.
That gave us a good look at how you can get around the backside and get an opening.
I've switched my headgear yet again. Looking progressively more silly, but I'm just trying to play this skip in toward the basket and stay curled up safe there.
Good play. Oh, wow, I didn't realize how much elevation there was between where your drives landed and where the basket is. That's significant.
And you can see it from that angle, and that's why Jenn and Owen sort of got caught up here on the top of this hill. Is it doesn't look quite as much as it is, and then it gets ya. Amanda just laying it up there.
Yeah, she's putting right at the OB. Is that correct? And you said it
Yep.
was only about 10, 15 feet behind the basket.
Yeah. And Owen looking for a wind read here. You know she's probably going for this, even though that is probably edge of the circle. Easy.
Such a nice line.
Easy for Owen. And the rest of us with relatively short putts.
Ooh, that was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
A little bit on the right side, but
Yep.
stays in the basket.
And I think Jenn's disc was like about a foot in front of mine. So she'll have a very similar putt. Right in the middle. So that's a par for Jenn. Owen and myself grabbing the birdies there. And Amanda, par. And Camille is, I believe, looking at her, par as well. Yep, so good. We're looking at hole 6 here. This is a par 3, 441 feet. This is sort of reachable. It's another one that's kind of downhill, and the path and the ground allows for some skips, unlike some of the other holes, so you can rely a little bit on ground play.
So it should be obvious that the path is not OB on this hole, but there is OB towards the basket on the right-hand side in that tree line marked by stakes.
And I got a nice little kick there to stay safe. Owen playing real low, playing off the path, and it is safe out there to the left as well. So she will have a tricky angle from there, but an angle nonetheless.
So it looks like the trees are giving you a little bit of a low clearance at 441 feet. Is there enough elevation loss that you can reach this one, Ella?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I ended up in circle 1 here, so it's definitely reachable, but it is a tough get for sure. Those, with a big downhill, you can really easily get it, but this one is kind of soft enough downhill that it's hard to really get all the way down there.
Looks like Jenn came close to that OB line on the right, but was able to stay safe.
And Amanda, a little too high, catching some branches. She will have a very long approach for her par. Playing a wide turnover, a little bit of a cut roll there. She's up close to pin high, but
I actually lost my bearing on her shot. I couldn't tell where the basket was. That shot looks so much different than from the tee pad.
She was left of the path there, so she'll have probably 150 foot pitch up to the basket from there. And Jenn trying to play the skip. That should get her inside the circle.
The basket appears to be on a left to right sloping terrain, which would then make this approach that much more difficult.
Yeah, and especially that is a great shot from Amanda because, if you go too long there, you're sailing out of bounds easily. So I was very impressed with that shot.
How far is the out of bounds from the basket on this one? Looks pretty close.
Yeah, I think it's about 20 feet or so.
But then with the downhill component, it's
Right. Yeah.
come into play much more quickly.
Exactly. Camille with a little pitch forehand. She'll have sort of a death butt down there towards the out of bounds. Jenn with a long look. And some limbs to deal with. Fortunately, she stays safe, and so did I on my
Boy,
drive.
you did make that close, didn't
Yeah.
you?
And I have a circle one look for a birdie here.
This is going to play longer than circle one
Yeah.
with that uphill
A lot
component.
of uphill. Just leaving it too short.
You had the line just a little bit too low.
Yeah, and this was another one of those holes I really wanted to get and was bummed to get inside circle one and not cash in, but I'll take a 3.
This looks like a scary putt.
Mm-hmm. Just hitting the cage.
Just a little bit too conservative.
That's like when your brain says go for it and your body says no. Jenn taking a bogey there. On with a par. And this hole is a good starter for what a few of the holes for the rest of this section of the course are going to look like. Fairly similar, low ceiling, sort of along this ridge, sloping downhill left to right.
I like how a lot of the holes are on the side hill. That's not something you see very often.
Mm-hmm. It definitely adds a unique challenge on this course.
Where you got all of the height that you needed to get there, just a little bit too far off the right side, I guess.
Yeah. All right, hole 7, coming at it from sort of a different angle, but again, this sort of sloping green past this path. Path is safe, and same as the last hole, there's out of bounds over that fence. This will play as a backhand turnover or a forehand shot.
Looks like you have an uphill component that you have to get over that ridge, and then it slopes a little bit downward. Is that accurate?
And I thought, from my vantage point, it's kind of hard to see or gauge the distance here. I thought that I had gotten pretty close and ended up edge of circle 2. So it definitely plays longer than it looks. And Owen play more of a flex backhand. Kind of surprised she didn't go to the forehand here, but I think that leaves her more of a wide open look.
Well, it also appears there's a little bit of a slope left to right towards the basket. So an air on the sidearm might end up down in the right in some rough terrain, perhaps.
Yeah, and there are some trees and bushes on the right here, so if you go early right, it can be tough to get up and down for a par. And Amanda with a little bit of a late release there. She gets kind of a lucky kick out into the open here, and she'll have a open approach for her par. And that's a great upshot there, playing the road skip, sliding just down toward the basket. Camille getting really close there to the out of bounds, but she will have a look at par.
Jenn has really good power from that edge of circle 2 distance.
And a lot of control too.
Yeah, very impressed.
And this footing too over here was pretty slippery, so trying to putt downhill with control from a long distance is challenging. I was glad here to be more on sort of flat ground with the basket. Just leaving it a little high.
Looks like there's a haze in the background.
A great putt there from Camille. Yeah, this was kind of the point of the day where the fog was slowly burning off and still around there a little bit.
Hopefully it's burning a little bit of the dew off the ground too, so
A
your
little bit.
discs won't be quite as wet.
Yeah. This is a course where you need to bring at least a couple towels or else you're going to be not having a good time. I'm tapping in my par. Owen will tap in her par. And
on paper, the last couple of holes look like they're fairly gettable, but there's a lot going on with those two holes.
Yeah, both of these holes played over par for the whole field. Definitely challenging holes. Taking a look, another look at Camille's great putt there. And here is hole 8, par 3, 246 feet, but another one that plays longer than that. You kind of want to hit this gap on a forehand or a backhand turnover and try to get as close to the basket as you can.
So clearly the basket is raised, but would you say that the general fairway is on an upward trajectory? Because here it actually looks like it goes downhill.
Yeah, I think it was pretty close to even, elevation-wise overall.
You got a tiny bit of a slope right to left, which is going to encourage the discs to finish on the left-hand side.
And you're kind of okay if you get over that wall, but you don't want to go too far right over that wall because that leaves you with a really scary death putt going down, looking down at the basket. And that is a nice shot, peered right down the middle. That will be a good look for birdie.
Boy, wherever you end up, you've got a pretty difficult putt.
Absolutely. It's a very challenging green here. Jenn not quite getting enough turnover and hits this path, and she's safe there, but she has a tough, she's in a tough spot. Amanda pushing those branches on the right, able to get back into the fairway.
I thought she might sneak up on the top of that fence there.
Yeah, those bushes on the wall there were challenging. And that is going to be a tough putt for Jenn.
This is an interesting approach as well because you don't want to fall short and end up below it, but you don't want to put yourself too far behind it and have the putt back over the ledge.
Exactly. Yeah, I trusted myself more going uphill, so I wasn't trying to really get it up top, but it's a scary one. This was a fun hole though. This on this fence to our right was some goats, and they really enjoyed getting fed grass through the fence.
I was wondering what the significance was of the goats that we've seen between some of the other shots.
And I was just off to the right there on the basket. Yeah, the goats were a little less feisty this morning because I think they were cold, but they certainly enjoyed their grass munchies from plenty of disc golfers this weekend, I'm sure. Camille
Nice.
tapping it in. As we saw, Jenn had that unfortunate chain out and fall back down the hill, which can easily happen. And she's got this sort of a tough look for her bogey.
Yeah, significant uphill component to a short putt.
She is able to cash that in. There we go. Mando a little scared.
Well, it's just not something that you have practiced very often.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So all pars for everyone except for Jenn taking a 4 on that one. And here we are looking at hole 9, 291 feet, par 3. Another low ceiling. Another hole with out of bounds on the right. And this one is feels a little shorter than some of our other low ceiling holes, but it still takes a good pump to get it up there.
It looks like there might be a slight uphill component to this. Is
Uh-huh.
that correct?
Yes. I am, for some reason, playing this fence shot, which was not my intention.
Well, actually, it's a good thing the trajectory was that far right. Otherwise, if you were a little bit more in line, you would have missed the fence and potentially gone out of bounds over the stakes.
Yeah, that was a very lucky kick for me.
Oh, similar line.
Playing it out to the right, avoiding those trees, and sitting down. Is that road
That path
out of
is
bounds?
not out of bounds.
Okay,
no.
that's what I thought. Yeah, she
The
was
only out of
fine
bounds
there.
on this is on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm. And it's worth noting a lot of these holes here, you can see the bushes sort of moving around. We had to, some of us had our notes from the day before and what we had thrown, and we had to adjust. But Camille did not. She's given that an ace run. But I know that I switched discs on this hole from what I did on the first day. Whew.
How significant would you say the wind was? Was it 10 miles an hour?
Yeah, I'd say on some holes I think it got up to 20, but on this hole probably about 10.
Well, any bit of wind seems to be magnified when you've got elevation in the equation.
Jenn chopping some trees. Unfortunately ends up out of bounds in this tree.
Yeah, really great in near the swag.
It's kind of a bummer for her.
Is she out of bounds because she's on the right side of the stakes? Because
Yes.
I didn't think that that there was a 2 meter.
Yes,
Roll
out of
and
bounds
play.
because she
Okay.
is on the right side of the stakes. That's correct. She's using that new rule where you get a little half circle to go in from out of bounds instead of just perpendicular to the out of bounds line. We did have a couple discussions about that on our card. And I learned that you can't use that if you're just close to the out of bounds and not actually out of bounds. You still have to go perpendicular.
Oh, beautiful shot.
I had to use some of that luck from kicking off the fence, and really happy to take the birdie there.
Looks like that was definitely a circle 2 putt there.
And although Owen is past pin high, she has this really tough angle with this kind of scraggly tree, either going around it to the left or to the right. She's trying out both sides. And able to cash it.
Based on her lining up left, right, I thought that she was going to have a little bit harder time with that, but
Me too. But no, not for Owen. Not for Owen.
beautiful
Good
putt.
there from Amanda. Camille tapping in her birdie after that ace run. And Jenn looking to save a bogey here. Unfortunate for her that that tree just caught that disc and didn't let it go anywhere.
Another look at your excellent putt here.
And Owen sneaking it around this tree. Shaking the water off her disc. Alright, here we are at hole 10. Last hole for this front nine. This is a par 3, 276 feet. This is going to play as a backhand turnover or a forehand. It's relatively flat, a little bit downhill, and again that fence line to the right of the basket is out of bounds.
On paper, this looks very similar to the previous hole in that you're throwing through the tree line and the OB on the right, but in actuality, it feels much different. The last hole was slightly uphill, played a little bit longer than it looked. This is slightly downhill. It's going to play a little bit shorter.
And Owen playing the very wide forehand. This one is easy to sort of stay too far out to the left because going too early right can lead to a lot of trouble. So I think a lot of us are trying to at least air left. Mando,
Oh, that is a gorgeous line.
beautiful turnover.
That's what you need to do on this hole if you want to pull it to the right. It needs to stay outside until the very end and then come in. Oh, that's pretty nice as well. Well, it looks like it's going to fade at the end.
Not quite enough turnover for her on that. And here's Camille's long look.
There is OB on the right side of this basket. Is it going to come into... Does it feel like it makes you
It's definitely
change your putt up? Because...
Yeah, definitely on your mind, and you can sort of see this basket is a little bit elevated as well. And
Oh, I like that run. Get it up in the air, give it a chance.
yeah, Jenn giving it a good run there. It doesn't feel as in play as some of the other holes, but it's definitely on your mind as you're putting. Oh, and just coming through the chains. She was not happy about this one.
She hit that pretty center. That could have stayed.
I just end up too high. Lucky to sit down there and not roll down the hill. And Amanda.
That's 3 shots that had a nice line, but just a little bit too high.
Yeah. Amanda looking at her comebacker. Cutting through the chains, but staying in the basket for her par. Camille taking her par. And this is the last of these kind of ridge holes with the out of bounds down to the right. And Owen was very frustrated with this putt. She went back to that spot after this and practiced. Went
Stared
through
it
her
down.
motions again. Yeah.
Well, that concludes the front 9. Owen and Ella pulling away a little bit from the rest of the pack.
Yep. And I know that I have to make a run here to have any chance at catching on.
You're running out of time.
Yeah.
To reel her back in.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you join us for the back nine of the Lake Chabot New Year's Classic. There's going to be some exciting drama happening.
I'm anxious to see more of this beautiful course.